Hi, this is the second video about Web3 and smart contracts on Ethereum. And in this video, we're going to build a web page that is going to grab the NFT tokens of a particular wallet address that you provide and then render them on a page for you. Now, the collection that I'm going to use for this example is the Spacepunks Club NFT collection. You can check them out on OpenSea or on spacepunks.club. But you can use any collection that you want. For the presentation purposes, we're going to go with this. Okay, so our web page starts with this form for the wallet address. Once I enter the wallet address, I'm going to use mine here. Once I enter the wallet address and click load Spacepunk NFTs, it should just show all the Spacepunks that I have in that wallet down below. So let's start. I've already laid out some HTML. I'm gonna include a link to the code in the description of the video, so you can reference that later if you decide to try and build your own implementation. But it's all pretty straightforward. Here is our form with the text input for the wallet address and the button. And here is a template snippet that we're going to use to render every NFT inside this NFTs div block. So let's start with the click event handler for our load Spacepunk NFTs button. And first thing we're going to do here is we're going to create an interface with the Spacepunks Club smart contract on the blockchain. To do that, we're going to use the Web3.js library here. You can read more about the contract class and what you can do with that. The functionality that we're interested in is simply calling some of the methods inside the contract. So we're not going to be using any of the write methods. We're not going to be submitting transactions that alter the state of the contract on the blockchain, which means for the purposes of this video, for the scope of this web page, you don't have to spend any gas. We're just going to be reading the data that's already on the blockchain. So let's create that contract instance like so. And that is going to take two arguments. One of them is the address of the contract. Another one is an application binary interface. For any smart contract, if you go to that contract's webpage on Etherscan, you can always grab the API. If you go to the code, scroll all the way to the bottom, and then here you have the contract API. You just export it with raw text format, copy, paste that. And we're going to include that we're going to save it into a separate JavaScript files. I'm going to do export default. And here we have our API for the Spacepunks Club token. We'll then import it, Spacepunks token API from spacepunks.token.js. We also need to add a type of module. This is so that the browser stops complaining about imports and just works well with it. Let's save this, and now we can go ahead and create our contract instance. Pass in the API and the contract address. We can grab it over here. And then now that we have our contract, we want to know how many NFTs the given wallet address owns. So the wallet address here is going to be the value of our text field. So we can grab it by matching the ID and then getting the value attribute of the element. And then the first thing we need to do is we need to learn how many NFT tokens this wallet has, and we're going to use a method from our smart contract called balance off to do that. So let's create another variable, spacepunks balance. Let's give it an NP contract methods balance off, and then the balance off method takes one argument, which is the wallet address, and then we just make call, and here we need to set the address from which this is being called from. So you could always do it for an individual method call inside the call attributes, but if for clarity and because we're only going to use one, we're only using one wallet address from which we're calling this contract methods, we can just set them here for all of the methods, which is the default account, and then we can set it to the same wallet address over here, which means we don't have to do it here for every method call. We can just do it once. Now, this is going to be the balance of the spacepunks that we have, so we can maybe console log it just to make sure everything's working so far. And here, I'm going to set this as a default value so we don't have to keep copying and pasting it. Okay, so when we click load spacepunks, there it returned how many spacepunk tokens I have in this wallet, and in fact it is one. If we were to try a different wallet that has more than one tokens for more than one spacepunks, we can do that as well, and this one has 55 spacepunks. But so now that we know that the balance off call returns the number of tokens that the wallet has, we can go ahead and grab the exact tokens and then grab the images for those tokens to show on our page. We're going to do that by calling another method on the smart contract, which is going to give us the token ID for every token that the wallet contains. So we're going to loop through them. Here we can call that token of owner by index. And this argument also takes just, actually this takes two arguments. This method takes two arguments. One of them is the wallet address. Another one is the index, which in this case is the I variable here. The index starts from 0. That's why we're starting our loop from 0 and then ending it with the number of tokens in the wallet. So this way we know that we're looping through all of the wallets, all of the tokens inside this wallet. So this one is the token ID of the NFT that I have. And then now that we know the token ID, we need to grab the image URL. And the image URL for every NFT, if it's an NFT hosted on the Ethereum blockchain, it's included in the metadata of that token. To get the metadata of the token, we can use another method from our smart contract, which is called token URI. That will give us a URL to the JSON file, which consists not only the image URL, but also a bunch of other, like what are the attributes for that spacepunk. And it might also include some description and other things. But for the purposes of this video, we're only interested in the image URL. So the steps to take to get to that image is going to be, we first get the metadata URI. We then request that metadata, read the JSON, and then we grab the image URL from that JSON file. So let's do that, but in the case of the spacepunks, it's going to take one extra step. The reason for that is because if we scroll down to the token URI method here, and if we, let's say we want to grab the metadata for token number 11, it's not going to give us a regular HTTP URL. It's going to give us something that's called an interplanetary file system, which is short as IPFS. And the extra step here is going to be to convert this URL into a regular HTTP URL so that we can query that, we can fetch the content from our JavaScript. You can read more about IPFS on their website, but for this video, we're only going to use this feature that they have, which is an HTTP to IPFS gateway, which is in English, it means a way to read IPFS files from your browser or from any HTTP client. So let's convert this IPFS URL to an HTTP URL. And we can do that by grabbing the token metadata URI. And then if the token metadata URI starts with IPFS, we want to change it to an HTTP URL, IPFS.io, IPFS, and this is that gateway thing that we're using. And then we basically want to grab this part of our metadata URL and discard the protocol definition here. So we'll split it, and we'll take the second item in that array of strings. Now we have a regular HTTP URL we can fetch. So we can have our token metadata fetching the metadata URL, and then the response will read as JSON. And here we can actually console log the token metadata just to check. So something's being passed as an object instead of a number, which is balance of, oh, we forgot to make call here. That's why. Okay. So here is the URL to the image of a spacepunk token that I have in this wallet. So this is good. Now we want to render it on our page using that template snippet that we have here. So we can do that by matching the template first. We'll have our spacepunk token element. Then clone it. And after that, we can have, we need to set the name and a few attributes on our, we also need to set a link and then a few attributes on our image, mainly the, or only the source, the URL to the image, and then we'll also duplicate the name as the alternative text attribute for the image. So let's do it like so we don't keep jumping back and forth. Okay, so spacepunks, token element, query selector, h1, inner text is going to be, actually we can use the description from our metadata here, so we can call them token metadata. And by the way, if you want to see the entire metadata, we can do it now. So here's the metadata object for a single NFT token. You can see it has the different attributes, the properties of the NFT itself, and then it has the description. It has a URL leading to the Spacepunks web page. It has the URL to the image, and then it has a name. So I think it makes more sense to use a name here. So we can do it by changing it here. And then we also need to set it to our, we need to change the and that's going to be linking to an OpenSea page for that token. So the OpenSea URLs follow a consistent structure where it starts with assets, then it follows with the smart contract public address. You can see it's the same address for the Spacepunks contract here and on OpenSea, and then it ends with the token ID within the collection. So this makes it very predictable and easy for us to construct on the fly, like so. So we just copy this part, and then we enter the Spacepunks address, and then goes inserted into our DOM, so it will show up on the page. To do that, we need to grab the container, the parent div, which is this. So we can say document get element by ID, and then we can say append Spacepunks token element. Okay. Looks like there's an error. Spacepunk token. Spacepunk. Is null. Okay. Let's just see if this one is being assigned. Yeah. Oh, we don't need the template tag itself. We need its content. So we need to add a content here and then clone it. Okay. So now you can see that it renders our Spacepunk. It populates the name as well as the URL to OpenSea. So if we were to use a wallet that had more than one space bunk, that would look like this.